Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana. And we're here today with special guests, authors R J Halbert, who are here to share with us their new novel, Caretaker, Book 1 of the Goodpasture Chronicles. So are you looking for a book to escape in? Well, the writing team, Rhonda and Jason Halbert, writing under the pen name R J Halbert, have crafted a remarkable page-turner, and I'm so glad we get to spend time with them today. So Jason Halbert is an Emmy and Grammy Award-winning producer and songwriter. His songs have reached millions of listeners worldwide through multiple #1 and platinum-selling albums. In addition to his 20-plus year career as music director and producer for Kelly Clarkson and several other notable artists, he has left his unique creative mark on numerous works in films and television. The second half of this creative genius, Rhonda Halbert, homeschooled their 2 children around the world on a tour bus, and she has spent the last 10 years as a successful music and television manager, guiding her clients' relationship with labels, networks, and producers. She's also a published photographer, music supervisor, passionate cook, garden enthusiast, and spiritual practitioner. So let's welcome to the show, R J Halbert.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us.
Well, what an honor it is to have the both of you here and to talk about this book. I know it's getting such great reviews. So what was the inspiration behind writing this book?
Our family had gone through a lot of trauma starting in 2020, which everybody did. Writing out COVID was pretty difficult for a lot of people. To pepper in the weight of it, it's such a long story, but both Jason and I lost a lot of people in our lives. We lost my mom, and we lost a great aunt and another aunt, and then a nephew, and then 10 people to COVID, and then Jason's mom, and it just didn't stop. And because of that, the grief and the weight of it all was just so overwhelming for both of us. Not to make this too heavy of a conversation, but our lives were really dark at that time, and we were looking for an escape. And so we did this treatment called Cereset that was recommended to us by Amy Grant. And in that process, Cereset teaches your brain how to calm back down so that you're not living in panic and depression consistently. And that actually worked. And it was wonderful for our family to do it. And it took us out of that deep, dark depression. And then for Jason, it actually opened up a whole new wave of creativity. I'll let him take it from here.
Yeah, it's funny. After a year of just talking, I was living in LA, and our main home was in Nashville. So I was working on the Kelly Clarkson Show at Universal Studios, and my wife would travel back and forth to visit. But we've been on the road for 30 years of our marriage, so we're used to spending half our time apart. And we every morning on the way to work and back, it was just talking about the latest thing and the grief and just the sadness. And after this brain treatment, all of a sudden, my brain was just spinning on these creative stories, and Rhonda started voice memoing them, and we just felt like there was something there. Basically, we created this fantasy world. We created characters that we knew based on our lives, but then we put them into some tough situations and just wanted to see what would unfold. And at first I felt guilty. I was asking Rhonda, like, are we totally just, living in denial, and we're creating this fantasy world that we're living in every day? And is this really healthy for us? And it seemed almost like a cop-out rather than dealing with what was before us. But we've learned through therapy since, and with talking with some mental health experts, that it's actually a very healthy way of processing trauma externally. And so that's the genesis of the book. The book is not as heavy as what we're talking about. We basically created a fantasy world with some mystery, some historical fiction, and of course a little bit of therapy peppered in.
Well, I'm so glad that you both have written this book, and there's so much there. And I do want to just say I'm so sorry for your losses. I mean, grief can be so overwhelming to go through so much. I really commend your family for taking that step and doing that brain treatment that helped so much.
I'd been in a bit of actual therapy leading up to that. And I came home one day and, it's only in the last probably 10 years that mental health has been escaping some of the stigma. And growing up in the 70s and the 80s, I hadn't been to a therapist. It just wasn't something that was common in my family or in our culture. But after one intensive therapy, I came home to Rhonda and I just said, man, I wish there was just a universal truth because we're not even unpacking what I'm going through now. We're still talking about childhood and stuff I've already dealt with. Like it's almost, it's so laborious getting to all this. I wish there was just a universal something that could unfreeze my brain right now. And that's what that treatment did. And so we were very, very thankful for it.
What was really fascinating to all of us, because we were approaching it trepidatious. It's just like, is this for real? Is this really going to work? The amazing part was all three of us, my son, my husband, and I, we all did it. And all three of us got so much positive healing and positive feedback from it. And it actually worked. And so if anybody gets any message from this talk that we're having, I hope that people realize that there is hope, there is help, and it doesn't have to be laborious. It doesn't have to be torturous. There are ways out there to find a light and find something outside of depression, and it absolutely worked for us.
Well, it sounds like we all kind of grew up within the same era, because I know when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, no one talked about mental health. If they did,
Yep.
it was like, oh, you've got issues.
Mhm.
It was like having the plague. No one wanted to be around you. So I'm so grateful that we're in this time where being able to talk about that is so open. So I appreciate you both sharing that. And so you talk about the storyline of this book. I mean, how long did it take for the two of you to write the storyline?
We literally wrote the entire arc of a three-part series. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Rhonda, but I feel like within 4 to 5 hours, literally it just gushed out. And then Rhonda took on the really hard task of actually outlining it, typing it out, and crafting it into a story. And then from that point, I would say it was a year to a year and a half of piecing it together. But it was such an adventure for me. With Kelly Clarkson, we cover we have a TV show called The Kelly Clarkson Show, and I've been with her for 20 years touring. And we do a new fan request every day, and that eventually on tour, and that eventually became karaoke on The Kelly Clarkson Show. And we cover so many genres. And then when she was hosting the Billboard Awards, I started doing mashups. And I say this to say, when we started writing a book, it was like a mashup of all my favorite influences from historical fiction to sci-fi to fantasy to self-help. And so it was really fun. It's just a creative outlet to explore this world. And we're first-time authors, so we literally didn't know what we were doing. And I can let Rhonda take from here because she really took a lot of these ideas and put them to paper, which is the key to actually getting a book out.
Well, it was a 50-50. Jason is always the creative, and he just spits out all these fantastic ideas. And then I voice memo recording all of our conversations, or if Jason was driving to work for the show, he would voice memo himself while he was driving if an idea popped in his head. And so, yeah, I was the one that took all those pieces and tried to make a puzzle look cohesive. And yes, we are first-time authors, so that part took a whole lot more work than what I anticipated. I'm also dyslexic, and I never dreamt of being an author or a writer. That just seemed impossible in my life because it was such a struggle. And so to see myself on this side of a completed book is kind of weird. I never saw myself like this. For us, we had so much going on around us that the work on the book actually became our escape, and it became the focus. And so we weren't focused on our pain. We weren't focused on our loss. We weren't focused on actually what does this mean for our future and our panics and our anxieties. And it just gave us something else to focus on. And so I poured everything into writing that out. And then Jason and I would email it back and forth if I was back in Nashville, or we would discuss when he would get home from work if I was in LA. And so that's why I think it took so long, about a year and a half, to do that, because we had to work through those challenges. But it feels like it was all worth it at this point.
What a just a journey that is for the both of you to come together in that writing process. And especially, I mean, when you hear collaborations, most of the time the people are working together within the same space. It seems, I mean, you guys really did the impossible here, you know?
Well,
So,
I literally, there was no alternative. It was just, it became so engaging and so much fun connecting on that level. I mean, we've been married 31 years now, and Rhonda has always laid on the business side of things, and I've been on the creative. She's been an entertainment manager for years, and she just took on managing me in the last 4 years. And so to be able to interact on an equal creative level was just such a great process for us. Anybody that's been married for a while knows that marriage is tough in the best of circumstances, yet along facing so much trauma and grief. And I feel like this process of working together towards something really solidified and strengthened something that could have been torn apart with all this grief.
and I would say absolutely to that. Like that was what saved us, was working together. I do know too many stories of friends and families that have had great loss and it damaged their marriage. And I think for Jason and I think if we would have lost each other in the midst of all of that, I can't even imagine where we would be at this point. So I think fighting for each other, fighting to be together, fighting to work together was what actually saved us.
Well, what an inspiration for people going through such difficult times and hardship to understand that there are other ways to approach grief and being able to stick together and really strengthen that bond. Well, on that note, we're going to pause here for a quick break. We've been speaking with authors R J Halbert, the husband and wife team behind Caretaker, the Goodpasture Chronicles. We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
It's one thing to become attached to your perfect home, but what do you do when that home becomes attached to you? A family in dire need of a fresh start, a mysterious house tied to the past. Buried deep within the foundation of the old Far Hill Manor lies a centuries-old secret. Dark forces or something stronger just waiting to be discovered. Caretaker, a supernatural thriller by breakout authors R J Halbert.
Are you a coffee lover who wants to make a difference? Look no further than Fire Department Coffee, a veteran-owned business that gives back to support first responders in need. Each batch of coffee is freshly roasted right here in the USA by a dedicated team of first responders and coffee experts. So when you enjoy a cup of Fire Department coffee, you're not only drinking high-quality coffee, you're supporting members of your community. Start your day with a coffee that gives back. Visit firedepartmentcoffee.com. That's fire, D-E-P-T, coffee.com.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
I'd like to thank Jason Eastwood at Guitarfulness for sharing his inspiring music and talent with us. His music is known worldwide for cultivating atmospheres of harmony, inner peace, and clarity. Visit Jason's website at guitarfulness.com. Join his newsletter, be part of his community, and download his music. Welcome back to Moments with Marianne. We're here today with special guests, authors R J Halbert, who are here to share with us their new book, Caretaker, the Goodpasture Chronicles. So why don't you share Caretaker with us? What is that story all about?
Yeah, so the genesis of Caretaker was actually at towards the end of what we call the troubles of our life, and they're still going. But our dream home that we purchased in 2014 completely flooded in a huge storm, knocked the house off its foundation, and it's completely unsalvageable. And I know we're privileged even just to have a home, but a home represents so much more than just the building. It's all the memories in it, and it's the hopes and dreams of the future and grandkids and everything that comes with that. And that was just like the final straw for me. And not only had we lost so many people, now the memories that were contained in this home with them, now they're lost as well. And my wife and I flew back home to Nashville to survey the damage and go through the house and start tearing things apart. And I was looking at this cracked foundation and seeing the damage that was in the house. And I remember just all of a sudden this idea hit me out of desperation. What if it was possible to do things in the physical world that would actually have an effect in our mental or in the spiritual or somewhere else, and that was a genesis of the book. So Caretaker, we've created a family that moves from the big city for a fresh start into a small town. They find their dream home. And over time, we don't know if this house is trying to save them, kill them, destroy them. There's supernatural elements in the house. There's a mysterious caretaker that comes with it. And there are some very odd interactions between the physicalness of the house and the actual mental and mind of the family. So I know that's very vague, but it is quite a mystery, and it's hard to discuss without giving away spoilers.
It's very true.
And we don't want to give away spoilers because it is a book everyone will want to pick up and start reading. But I think we can talk about another type of spoiler. Rhonda, I understand that there's an audiobook that's coming up at some point.
Yes, there is. So if anybody has watched Jason on the Kelly Clarkson Show, it's quite a dynamic show, and Jason doesn't do anything half-hearted or small. And so he decided, oh, let's do an audiobook, but let's not just do an audiobook with one narrator. Let's do an audiobook with every voice being cast by actors. And so, we've always called ourselves, he's the wow and I'm the how. So he wows everybody with the idea, and then I go, okay, how do we do this? And so we just reached out to our dream actors that we heard these voices for, and to much to our surprise, they all responded with a resounding yes. So we are creating something that's almost like an old 40s radio show, where there will be multiple actors, there will be Foley sounds, we will have music produced by an Oscar-winning composer. And then I think the most fun part of it all is we do have one special guest that we can announce, and that is Kelly Clarkson will be voicing a character in our audiobook. But she is one of a very decent long list of incredible actors who are going to participate in this. And my mind is just blown that they all said yes, but they did.
Well, you all are taking audiobooks to the next level, and I am so excited about that.
Well, it was kind of an accident. I've never listened to an audiobook in my life, but I'm an avid reader. I mean, when we were touring a lot with Kelly, I would read a book every day or 2 days, but I've never listened to an audiobook. And so I downloaded a few, and hearing a narrator read voices that weren't the voices in my head was just driving me nuts. And it's probably, I'm on the spectrum, which we've incorporated in the book. In the 70s, I was diagnosed as autistic, but now we know it's a much larger spectrum than that. And so now you would call it Asperger's. But literally, I couldn't get past somebody else reading another voice. It was just something that drove me nuts. So I went to Rhonda and said, we just can't do it this way. And so we created this fully immersive audio experience. I hate to even call it an audio book because it's more than that. I mean, it's full on Foley and score and characters, and I'm really excited about it.
It's like the only thing you're missing then is the movie part, right?
Well, we're working towards, that's a dream of ours, is to have a television series, and we're definitely working on the script for that. Because this book, I compare it to Lost was one of my favorite TV series of all time, in the sense that the first season of Lost, you're immersed in this world that's mostly this beach that this cast has crashed on. And at the end of season 1, they open up this hatch and you discover this world is so much bigger than what you were in. This book is the same way. We end on a cliffhanger in book 1, and it opens up an entire new world that we hint at, but that we're going to dive into. So it's a very broad story that actually takes place over about 3,000 years of time. And in book one, we're focusing on a narrow piece of that time, but it's going to open wide up. And so we're really hoping we can take this a series at some point so we can tell the entire story.
And this is a trilogy. From the first day that we dreamt up this storyline, we knew it couldn't be told in one book the way that we wanted it to. So unlike what some people argue about Lost, is that the writers may have not known their ending before they started shooting. Jason would argue that with anybody any day. But,
yeah, come at me. They knew what they were doing.
But we do know our ending. We know exactly where this is going, and it's just a matter of writing it and getting it out there in time. We would absolutely love to build the series to follow that same arc.
Well, I can't wait to hear what you guys are doing next with the next book and the audiobook. I mean, you've got so much on your plate that you're juggling just getting this book out.
We decided to self-publish this for a variety of reasons, and it's been like drinking from a fire hydrant. After being in music for 30 years and learning the terminology of the publishing world and what it takes to get the information out there, it's been a huge challenge, and we've made several mistakes along the way. But we're learning, and we have a lot of things to implement for book two, and it's been an exciting, very exciting new challenge for us, but very busy.
Yes.
So, Rhonda, what would you say are some of the things that are coming up that you are really excited about with this series?
I am really excited about book two, and we are super close to being done with it. Adding book two in the process of marketing book one, it makes your head spin. Again, we're first-time authors, didn't know what we were doing when we dove into this, didn't realize the brain power that it takes to balance all those things. But I'm super excited about book two. I don't want to give too much of book one away because I know this book just released and I want people to read it. But there's a hero that emerges from book one, and he goes on an adventure. And that every time I dive into it to write it and to dream it up and to finish details and all those things just makes me smile. And I don't mean for that to sound arrogant, but my own product makes me smile. I love getting into that world. It brings me to a happy place. I love the characters. To me, that's what I get excited about. I do love that writing process.
You both are such an inspiration. Where can our readers and listeners connect with you and learn more about Caretaker?
The best place to start is rjhalbert.com. Everything you need to know is there, and then we're also on all the socials at RJ Halbert. We have an exciting community called the Ouroboros Society, which is for our deep diving nerds who want to get into the lore and the mystery. But rjhalbert.com, connect with us. We've already been getting so many stories from people who have also experienced grief, that are seeing some analogies we put in there, and then also some people that haven't, that are just enjoying the fun of the journey. So that's a really exciting part, is to connect with people personally. So find us at rjhalbert.com.
Well, Rhonda and Jason, thank you so very much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you for inviting us. We're I think we're overwhelmed that people are interested and want to hear our story. So thank you.
Yes, and thank you so much. And this has been a highlight for me after being on television every day. I've never done talk radio, and it's where I live. I can't listen to music after work. So if you ever see me, I'm listening to talk radio 24/7. And so this was my first experience, and you made it so easy and fun for us. So thank you.
Well, thank you both. It has just been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, Caretaker. Caretaker's available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all indie retailers. And remember, support our indie bookstores. If you don't see it on the shelf, just ask for them to order it. And make sure to visit Rhonda and Jason Halbert's website at rjhalbert.com. There you can order your own signed copy of Caretaker. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.